The process of distinguishing science from superstition had begun, and the great minds of the era dedicated themselves to this work.
I thought we could just talk a little bit then about the Clash of the Titans.
Oh, yes.
The sort of epic fallout between the Donald and Good King Elon.
It did escalate quite fast.
Yeah, it got real serious real quick, didn't it?
Yes.
It was funny, and it was. I mean, it's only been going for a week, maybe a bit more than a week.
Yes.
I'm actually glad we didn't cover it immediately. A bit like the Zia Yusuf thing. Let it sort of simmer for a few days.
I did on the Daily Channel, but
Right,
we're a bit more thoughtful here on the podcast channel. But I mean, it was like, obviously there was some disagreement over the spending, and then like in one afternoon it went straight to you're a pedo and you're a Nazi.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You're a druggie. There's ketamine thrown in, wasn't there?
Yes. Although not by Donald himself.
Oh, he probably briefed it to someone.
Oh no,
I don't know.
Donald did the Nazi thing, did he? Or maybe that was a. The problem is, as soon as something like this happens, everybody starts making fake truth posts.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have no idea which one is real.
Yeah.
The ketamine stuff seems to be confirmed and seems to be prescription based, but it does have side effects, shall we say?
But he's been quite successful. So if ketamine does that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I should try some.
According to the Washington Post, Adderall is also mixed into it.
Okay.
So
that was what M. Bankman-Fried was on. Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yes, and many others who have to focus for a pretty long time and struggle with it, and then they end up using Adderall to help them do that.
I cannot pay attention to anything longer than about half an hour.
What is Adderall? We don't really have it in Britain. I've never.
Adderall is usually used to treat attention deficit disorder or attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. And
it's a pill?
It's a pill.
Okay.
And it's also very frequently used by students who are cramming for exams and things like that. It's used by a lot of lawyers as a sort of downgraded cocaine, shall we say.
Surely lawyers can afford cocaine.
Yes, but there are other consequences, and it seems that the consequences of Adderall are less severe than the consequences of cocaine.
Oh, right.
So you see, John Kennedy was, I believe, on methamphetamines, and you have a history of drug use, not just from Hunter Biden in the White House, but there is a certain history of the use of drugs among high-performing people in order to enhance their performance and keep them going for longer. So ketamine is not performance-enhancing. It's not supposed to be, at least. But when these drugs are mixed, nobody knows what exactly the total effect is.
Right. You call the world's most powerful man a pedo.
Say again?
You call the world's most powerful man a pedo.
Hey, if you need an excuse to call the world's most powerful man a pedo, then saying I was on drugs is probably a good one.
Yes.
So if you need to climb back, if you need to sort of backtrack a little bit, then okay, I was on drugs, sorry.
One quick note I will say, John Kennedy was in extreme amounts of pain. I think he was on all sorts of different drugs, but because he was wounded during the war and was actually in all sorts of pain. But anyway, that's a side note. So yeah, this Clash of the Titans, it fell out pretty quick, didn't it? And because we haven't talked about it on the podcast yet, I thought it is sort of worthy of note. It's all the mainstream media were. Was this your?
It was a daily video I did.
Yeah, your daily video, which I thought was very good, very interesting. But all the mainstream media sort of been commenting on it. So
very nice picture from the BBC.
And there's lots of there are a few different angles to sort of take into account, whether it's sort of truly just about politics, about the future of America, about the deficit, about the economy, or whether there's sort of a personality clash, whether Elon was always going to have left the Trump administration around this time anyway, whether it's a mountain out of a molehill, it's not really anything, it's actually a nothing burger, or whether it's actually a big deal or not. There's just a few different takes on it. So I just thought we could talk about that a little bit. So one of the first things I would say is that you've got Elon, the world's richest man, perhaps one of the richest men ever to have lived, sort of up there with John D. Rockefeller and Crassus, the most followed man of all time, right?
Yes.
More eyes on him and what he says than anyone who has ever lived.
Yes.
And
If you ever get retweeted by him, your replies just completely blow up.
if he follows you,
Yeah.
you've made it. But still, as powerful, quote unquote, as Elon is no match in terms of pure power for the president of the United States.
Yes.
As powerful as Elon is, you go one-on-one, head-to-head, lock horns with the Donald whilst he's in the big chair in the Oval Office. You're not going to win.
Although Elon did point out he's here for 4 years and I'm here for 40 years.
Well, that's the next thing.
Yeah.
That's the next thing. Elon's going to be around long after Trump's gone, not just out of office, but once Trump's dead, I imagine.
Yes.
Elon's going to be around for decades more. So Elon can bide his time, if anything. Yeah. Wait it out.
I think they'll make up.
Well, so that was one of the things. You think they will? I feel like there's no way back. I feel like he burnt all his bridges. You bring up the Epstein stuff, and whether he's deleted those tweets or not, we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
Burning a bridge, though, Trump doesn't usually forgive. Well, sometimes he does, doesn't he? But
they kind of need each other
sometimes.
He does sometimes. I feel like if you personally insult the man, you're out.
So he's take Marco Rubio as a prime example.
Good example of when he did.
Ted Cruz, a bunch of the others who sort of tried to disrupt the 2015-2016 campaign. He's reconciled with the vast majority of them.
That's true.
They exchanged pretty nasty insults, and Ted Cruz refused to endorse him. They still managed to make up. I think the Epstein thing was definitely a line, shall we say? Definitely a very serious line. But what I found strange was that Trump wasn't anywhere near as vicious as he could be. We've seen Trump be extremely vicious, and he didn't really go that far against Elon.
Well, he doesn't want to have to send his astronauts into space using Russian launchers.
Which is one complicating factor.
Well, they both need each other, really. Yep. I mean, perhaps need is a bit strong, but they're both stronger together, aren't they?
Oh yeah, it's much better having these two work together. And actually, I mean, the issue that they fell out over, Trump was trying to make the best deal he could, but Elon is right. The US needs to drastically cut its spending.
Okay, so let's start there. So it started with this one big beautiful bill.
Yep.
Yes.
Where the debt ceiling is going to be raised. Elon even tweeted that it's being raised more than ever before.
Yes.
And that's something Elon despises.
Yes.
And he's right to.
And that Trump was going to lower taxes. And there's arguments to be made whether that actually,
that's fair enough.
Whether that actually increases tax revenue or not. Like some people think, you raise taxes, you make more, the exchequer, the treasury makes more money. Well, not necessarily.
Over the long
where it becomes a false economy.
Over the long term, it definitely does, but not immediately.
Right.
And everything is on such a short time scale now. We've just got to get through the next bond issuance. That actually the next couple of months is kind of what matters.
Right.
That's really the fundamental problem. That American politics is geared especially towards the short term, because every 2 years there's an election.
Yep.
And halfway through your existing term, you have to begin campaigning for the next one. And this imposes a degree of short-termism that is very, very destructive. The other side of the story is that some of the math around what's happening to the deficit and what will happen as a result of this bill is suspect, because it starts with the assumption that the tax reductions that happened in Trump's first term were going to be removed anyway, whereas it was that they would be raised back because it was a temporary reduction, whereas now they're being made permanent. So new legislation would have to come in order to raise taxes again. So which base do you count from? That's one complicating factor. The other one is the assumptions around growth. If you succeed dramatically in cutting regulation and in reducing taxes, does the ensuing growth result in, yes, a higher total debt, but a reduction in the relative value of the debt against GDP, which is the metric that actually counts, not the total dollar amount, but debt versus GDP.
Well, the direction of the deficit is what's key there.
And the direction of the deficit is key there.
So
as is the amount of growth.
So the broadest point here is that they disagreed fundamentally on the direction of the US economy, essentially, or what is to be done. I mean, they both agree that we want to reduce debt, but how to go about doing it, they're disagreeing on.
Well, I think they might agree on that. I think Trump came in from the point of view is, look, I can't whip Democrats. This is the best deal that I can do. And it's not just Democrats. He's got a whole bunch of establishment politicians who are like, give me my pork.
Yes.
I want my pork.
Yeah.
Whereas Elon is like, no, I don't care. You should have found a way to make it better.
Which was never politically viable without them reaching the threshold of 60 senators in order to defeat the filibuster.
Yes.
So,
although interestingly, now the Senate is working on a version of this bill, which is going to be significantly better, and then try and send that back to the House. So there is that.
Right. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think the core of the argument was, on Trump's part, political realism and priorities. The priority being the deficit is secondary to the immigration questions and is secondary to the fulfillment of the Trump agenda. And if these promises are fulfilled, then we're in a better position to tackle the deficit and the debt. Whereas Trump's position was, no, we should focus on this now, and to the exclusion of political reality and other priorities. This is what it broke down to. The tech bros versus MAGA. And you could argue that the tech bros versus MAGA was always a break that was going to happen at some point, because one of them is nationalist and one of them is bring as many Indian developers as I need. And so that clash was inevitable, and we saw the first shots fired over Christmas 2024, where you had Musk arguing for endless migration, essentially.
H1B1, whatever it was.
Endless H1Bs. Whereas the nationalist wing, the MAGA wing, was saying, hold on a second, we don't care. You will have to train them here and pay them American salaries rather than use migration to depress wages. You're rich enough to afford higher salaries.
Yeah, I mean, so I suppose, again, just broadly speaking, they've got a different view of how to go about saving America, basically.
Yep.
But
they're both trying to achieve the same thing.
Well, in the end.
Yeah.
The good point you made, I think the key point in your daily video, was that America's debt now is something about 37 trillion, I think, now.
It's about 100% of GDP.
Which is just an absurd number. We've done content on this before.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy, insane number, sort of barely got any bearing on reality almost. It's such an insane number. And that, as you said, it will come to a head.
It's a mathematical certainty.
Right. There's the 07-08 credit crunch. I hate that phrase, but everyone knows what we're talking about when that happened. And it was moved on to sort of sovereign debt. It was moved away from sort of banks in various senses.
Yeah, there's nowhere else for it to go.
So there's nowhere else for it to go. So when it implodes next time, there's no road left to kick the can into. So it will be really terrible next time. And Elon, well, they're both interested in dealing with it, just in different ways. Or I feel like Elon's view is sort of a bit more immediate. Like, we have to do extremely painful things right now. Like, stop doing the debt ceiling thing. Yeah. No, tighten our belts.
Well, the thing is, we don't know.
And Trump's more like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
I haven't got the numbers in the Senate, at least, to do that. So we've got to do this instead.
We don't know when the next great financial crash is. So
you said it could be a few months, could be 9 years.
Yeah, if it's in, let's say it's over 5 years away, then Trump's right. Let's just make the best deal you can and edge towards it. But if it happens in 18 months' time, we'll look back at this and we'll be like, oh, why didn't we do what Elon said while we still had the choice to make the cuts voluntarily?
Let me tell you what the worst part is. The worst part is that with the rioting that you're seeing, which we covered yesterday, and with the cultural conflict that you're seeing that's sort of happening in the US between the left and the right, that ends up impacting the market's perceptions of American stability, and therefore has an impact on sentiment and debt markets.
I think bond traders are smart enough to see that they're not getting paid anyway.
Hold on. The flip side of it, they all assume that they are getting paid. The flip side of it is that if you do impose the kind of austerity that is required, that too can trigger unrest. But then the unrest happens in a political climate that's less favorable to the MAGA movement. So there is a sort of the politics and the economics move in tandem, or there is a relationship between how they move. And any kind of major destabilizing political event does have an impact on markets. The question is, do you choose the political event to be one that is based on your agenda, where you get to set the tone of the debate and decide the narrative, which is what's happened? Or does it happen because you got into power and the first thing that you did was impose austerity, including on your own base? That's the other side of this debate. And my sense is that Musk is missing that perspective.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I don't know if the recent unrest in LA, I don't feel like Trump or Trump's team, the White House, was sort of playing 5D chess, where because they sent like ICE guys in to try and arrest 35 people, and it turned into this. I don't think they could have seen that coming necessarily. But
I've been writing that a big wave of protests is coming, no matter what. If you promise mass deportations, you must expect protests to come on the back of it. And now the Democrats have promised that on the 14th of June, they are going to massively escalate their protests.
I saw that, yeah.
The thing is, these people protest and burn stuff down anyway. It would have been something else.
But
it would have been another criminal who had given himself a drug overdose in the vicinity of the police, and that would have kicked it off. These people are just scum.
Yes.
So a bit of the tweet back and forth, back in the days when Elon was super pro-Trump, and there's pictures out there of Trump playing with his kids, Elon's kids.
Right.
It's like, would you have done that if you thought he was actual paedophile, if he was actually a sex criminal?
Files, yeah.
And if you really thought he had questions to answer over sex crime, why do you only bring that up after you've fallen out politically? Wouldn't you? So it all rings a bit hollow. But I do feel like, of the two, it was Elon that sort of spat his dummy out. It was Elon that sort of...
Yeah.
It was Elon that turned his back first.
Yes.
Which is, unfortunately, I guess...
Trump was definitely trying to give Musk a good exit. And he was definitely trying to keep the relationship as best as possible. And he didn't escalate against Musk anywhere near as much...
No, that's true.
The other way.
And you're quite right at the beginning. Trump could have gone through his throat.
Yes.
Just in terms of tweets.
Yes.
And doesn't seem to have done.
Yeah.
There's also the angle, there are multiple angles if you look for them. The angle of Tesla and EVs and taxes on EV. You know, some people are saying that Elon's all pissed off because Trump's basically hurting Tesla.
He's been on the record for years saying that you should get rid of the subsidies. So that is true.
The Guardian, obviously, they're all lefties really loving it. Absolutely loving that the bromance is over.
Yeah.
Because it was such a dangerous team up against them.
Yes. I don't blame them. I mean, both sides are guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. When the left suffers some sort of big defeat, you know, like Kamala losing, you're gonna rub it in a bit, right? You're gonna gloat a bit.
You're gonna have a wry chuckle.
Yeah.
I don't really blame them for it. It's just how the world is, isn't it? There was one of your tweets.
Yes.
And so it seems like now he's deleted a bunch of. Elon has deleted some of the tweets. So some are saying maybe it's true that he's sort of trying to gear up for a rapprochement, whether Trump's people and Elon's people have got together and said, look, dial this down. Let's try and walk it back a bit, and let's not be actual die-hard enemies for the next 3.5 years or whatever it is.
It makes sense for both of them to do that.
X is a very important weapon when it comes to regime change operations. This has to be accepted as being a part of it. And so the state needs X. If you want to repurpose the deep state and the ability of the deep state to affect regime change, you need Elon on side, unless you're willing to go Chinese and expropriate him or lock him up or something like that.
Yes.
So there are these realities here. And at the same time, without government contracts, all of Musk's other businesses, especially SpaceX, face some complications at least. And the national security part of the establishment that uses SpaceX and the satellite network that he's building, these guys want to make sure that Musk is on side.
Absolutely.
But they also don't particularly like Trump either. So that there are these layers there in this debate and this conversation that are...
Absolutely. The other angle is the space thing. You mentioned it. You've just mentioned it there. Yeah, that SpaceX it's more than just a billionaire's plaything.
Yes.
It's more than just like one of Elon's toys.
Yes.
Right. It's actually being used instead of NASA to ferry material and people into space now, because you can't use the Russian Soyuz forever.
No, well, especially if they want to start putting weapon systems.
And there's no shuttle program. NASA's got no shuttle program. So
if they want to start putting weapon systems up into orbit, which we're probably very close to being at the point we want to do,
some say,
are you going to ask the Russians to take them up for them?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, they need each other.
And then there's Starlink. Starlink's an important thing now, really important thing.
Ukraine war can't operate without Starlink.
Right. I mean, the American military establishment still dominates or is GPS, right? They still, which is a key thing. But yeah, I mean, this was a funny meme. I just thought,
which Elon posted, didn't he?
I could see why Elon's. It's easy for me to say sitting here where I haven't really got a dog in the fight, but I can see why Elon was so pissed.
Yeah.
But I don't really see why he went full blown crazy, like bringing up Epstein stuff.
Yeah.
Because now I don't know. No one really knows, do they?
No one knows what's
unless
in the
you were there
files,
when it was in the files. But we do know there is clips, aren't there, of Trump and Epstein together. But then there's a picture of Elon standing next to Ghislaine at a party. Just because you met Jeffrey Epstein or even knew him doesn't necessarily mean you're guilty of any crime. Loads of people that are clean knew Epstein or even went to the island. Like Stephen Hawking went to the island, didn't he?
He was always suspect.
One of the Weinstein brothers went for dinner or something at Epstein's house. It doesn't necessarily mean you did any sex crime. However,
that Stephen Hawking was a raging sex pest. Maybe he was. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt it. Right, that's sort of the point I'm making. I doubt it. So I mean, we're going to make the segment slightly shorter today, but I wonder where it will go. I mean, as an Englishman. Even albeit an Anglo-Englishman, my father is American. I've got loads of cousins in America. I still find it a little bit funny. It's both disappointing that they're falling out with each other, but also a little bit funny.
Oh, it's definitely funny.
I mean, true MAGA fans, die-hard Elon fans will be annoyed at me saying that. It's not funny. It's not funny. It's deadly serious. I'm a fan of both funny. Yeah,
me too. And I want them to, make up.
I just feel like too many bridges have been burnt, certainly from Elon's side.
Yeah,
for them to have really make up.
I think the direction as things currently stand is that they're going to probably end up making up. And I think that this is still within the recoverable range.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it's still within the recoverable range. There are too many codependencies associated, like they are dependent on each other in all kinds of ways. Yeah.
No, you're right. So, okay, there are lots more angles that probably could be talked about this, and we'll sort of see how it plays out.
Yep.
I suppose. All right, I'll leave it there for today.
Very good.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.